Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. Anybody that's new, welcome. So today we are going to do a Jenga Block Lighthouse. If I sound a little bit stuffy, I do have a cold, so please bear with me. So we're going to be using some Dollar Tree Jenga blocks. You can find them in the kids section. If you can't find them, try ordering on dollartree.com for my US friends. That you can, I've heard you can order 3, and I've heard you have to order a case. I'm not really sure. You can get them shipped directly to your store for free. You'd have to look that up and find out in your area if it does get shipped to your store for free. Also, sometimes you can find a coupon on dollartree.com and get a flat rate of $5.99. I haven't seen it in a while, but sometimes they do have that. We are going to be using Well Bond. This is my preferred glue with Jenga blocks. I do not suggest using any hot glue at all. Your blocks won't seal properly using hot glue, as well as it won't hold the build at all, and it will eventually fall apart. Now, I've heard DT does have wood glue. I've never tried it. I've never seen it in my store. So if you have that in your store, you can try that as well. And you can find it at Hobby Lobby, Rona, Lowe's, Amazon. A lot of stores do carry it, but like I said, if you can find the DT hot or wood glue, I would suggest that. The only time I do suggest using hot glue on Jenga blocks, if you're just gluing a couple pieces together, then it doesn't really matter. But a big build, I do not suggest it at all. We are going to be using an L-shaped carpenter ruler. I find this works really well for gluing your blocks together. The layers that I've done for the lighthouse already pre-glued. Otherwise, my tutorial would be like 2 hours long. So all of them are going to be stacked today, all the layers. So putting them stacked sideways like this, as opposed to flat. When you are gluing them, the great thing about this ruler is when you're doing a bunch of layers, you can just move it up like that. Obviously, that will stick better. And just keep doing that as you go around, and you can just have them all drying and doing it at once is what I do. Now we're gonna start working from our bottom to top, and we're gonna use 229 blocks. I do suggest pausing the video, grabbing a pen and paper, and writing them down, which I find it easier myself when I'm explaining it in video, but it also helps you as well to keep the numbers what you need. So we're going to start with the bottom 2 rows is 18, 16, 15, 14, 1 row of 13, 2 rows of 12. I'm going to keep it like a pyramid. 2 11s, 2 10s, a 9, an 8, and a 7. Now, on this build, I am not just going to glue it all together. I am actually going to glue it in sections. The reason why is when you paint it, it's just going to be a lot easier than trying to paint on the blocks, as you know, they're not super flat and you want to have super straight lines. So I just find it easier to paint them. I think it will be easier to paint them separately. So we are going to glue them in 4 sections. So this will be your top, will be 4, the next row 4, the next row 4, and then the bottom 6. I'm going to glue that in 1 section, only being is because the container that I am putting it in after to make the stand on it, you're going to probably get two layers and a half that's going to be hidden. So that's why I'm going to do this one in section bigger. Now I'm going to glue this section red, white, red, and white. Now when you're gluing them, just leave them like this. Make sure they're nice and centered. Now I do get asked a lot about my Dremel drill, and it's just the brand Dremel. You can look under hand tools. I think it was about $50. Works amazing. I am just gonna round the corners on the sides of the blocks, but I'm going to do that after it's glued together because some layers you're not going to need to round every corner off because you can't reach the corner on the second layer, if you know what I mean. So let's get this glued. I am just going to use the DT white paint. I am going to try the Holiday Red. Tuscany Red is still my favorite from Dollar Tree, but I want to try the Holiday Red just to see, and I can always go over I can always go over with the Tuscany Red if I don't like the Holiday Red. But I'm going to keep them in sections, and then I'm going to come back before I glue this all together and show you. Now that we got it painted, we are going to glue them together. The lines are a lot straighter, like I said. If you paint them separate, then the lines will be a lot better than trying to do it on the blocks. And you're just going to center them. Going to use some Wellbond. I wouldn't use hot glue. Gonna grab some jute rope. Now this one's not from Dollar Tree because I haven't been able to get any, and I like buying mine at Dollarama only for the fact is that you get a lot more rope for the price. So it's just thin rope. I'm gonna glue it right between the colors of each block right here. So there's 1, 2, and 3. And I'm just gonna use hot glue to glue it all the way around. All right, now that I got the jute rope hot glued all the way around, I'll show you in the back. We are going to do a door. On the front, I just used a pencil and just drew in this. I'm gonna do the door black. And then what I wanna do around the door is just add a little bit of rocks just around the outside of it that I'll just hot glue on. All right, so I did put the rocks around there, hot glued it. I found this little button in my crafting stash. I just hot glued it on for the door handle. Then you're gonna need these Dollar Tree rings. We're gonna do a lifesaver. We're gonna paint that white with DT paint. Once you get it painted, you're gonna do 3 marks on it. You can just use a pencil. Look at it as a clock. We're going to do this lifesaver 12, 3, 6, and 9 because then we can turn it sideways. You're going to use some twine. I already just started it here. You're going to tape it down as you go along. You're just going to lift the rope a bit so it hangs off on the side and that it doesn't look like it's too tight. Just so you can tell that it's a lifesaver. And this tape is not, it says deco tape, but it is not really sticky. So you really gotta play with it when you put it on and when you wrap it. I'm just gonna do like this, and it actually just fits right through the hoop like that as well. And you're just gonna go 2 or 3 times around. Just like that. And then you're gonna repeat those steps going around the rest of it. All right, now that we have that done, I'm gonna place it on the red because I think it stands out a little bit more than the white, and that's just my opinion, where you wanna stick it. You might have different ideas. Not a lot of the nautical has come out, but I had a few things that I wanted to do. Actually, some of the fairy garden. Now, for this spot here, I'm just kind of gonna leave this till later on as we go along. Spot right here, this for anyone that lives in Canada that has a Dollarama, they have the wooden fairy door and felt mat. I didn't use the door because it was too big. There was just a tiny ladder and the welcome sign. I'm not sure if I want to maybe put the welcome sign there. I'm not set with this spot yet, but it did come with this little, I guess if you want to call it a little window. The only thing is if I paint it white, paint it black, then the white. So I cut out a piece of just foam paper. I'm gonna glue it right behind it. But before I do that, I am actually gonna glue it white or sorry, glue it, paint it white, and then just hot glue this on in the back to stick it here. Before I move on, I do want to say hello to Ryan. She's my newest and youngest follower on my YouTube channel. I did meet her on vacation, and thank you for watching, Ryan. I know her mother has told me that she has been binge watching my videos, so I did want to give her a shout out. I'm gonna get this done before we move on to the next step. All right, so now that I glued that on, I did add some rope around here. I just had some in my crafting stash. I just had some leather rope. I wanted just black a little bit around it just to make it pop a little bit more, so I'll hot glue that on there. So I am just gonna go with the little welcome sign mat, but I am gonna put it here. DT has these laser cutouts that you can find, and they come on a bunch of different ones with different, I think there's fish. There is, I used it on my wall shelf, the nautical last year that I did. They did have, sorry, seahorse, but I didn't find any, so I found these ones in the store. So I am just gonna place them on here. I'm gonna leave them as is, just with the color, makes it pop, and I'm just gonna hot glue them on like that. Now I've turned the lighthouse upright, so this is the top of the lighthouse. So we're gonna add, there's a couple different ways you can do it. I'm gonna do a clay pot. Now this clay pot, I got it from Dollarama as they were still getting pots in my store. It's the bottom of a clay pot. It's the saucer of a clay pot. So it's just over 4 inches in diameter. I painted it black, and it's gonna sit upright like that. Now you can use a smaller one. This one is from DT. Now maybe your store has bigger sizes. You can use this one as well, but I'll show you the little difference that you could do if you use this one after. So I did paint it black, and I'm just gonna put this one over here. I'm gonna put it on top, but I wanna make a little fence around it. So DT has these clipboard cutouts like this. And they come in a pack of 6. I've already used some, excuse me, in some other projects. And you're gonna paint them black, so you're just gonna use some DT paint, and you're gonna paint it black. You are gonna use 2 to go all the way around. But on the bottom, because they are tall, you're gonna cut the bottom off. So you're just gonna cut all the bottoms off, and you're gonna paint both sides black as well. And I will do a touch up after I glue it on. And you're just gonna cut it low like that. And you may just have to go over afterwards and just trim it to make it a lot more even. You can just hot glue it on, and you're gonna do it, excuse me, just around the lip like that, and it will fit to all the way around. And then it would be glued on top, but we're not gonna glue it on top till we do the middle. So let me just get these glued on, and then we'll move on to the next step. All right, now that I have it all glued on, it looks great. It's a little bit wet because I just did a touch up of a little bit of black paint on it, and it only took 2 to go around. Now I'm gonna glue it on there with some Wellbond and hot glue, but in between, I'm gonna grab it here. In between the black top and the base, the top part of the Jenga block, I am just gonna wrap a thin piece like this of jute rope around the bottom of it. I am gonna use some Wellbond to glue it on. I don't wanna use hot glue. Now these ones come from DT that just recently came out this year. I don't know if they were out last year. The solar stake light. Just make sure that you pull out the little tab on it so it does turn on. I did put it in the window for a little bit. It does light up, but you have to pull it out in order for it to charge, and you'll have to leave it out for a day in the light. So if you do keep this indoors, I would suggest putting it by the light maybe earlier in the day, and then by the time the evening comes, it will light up. Or if you have it outside. The only thing I suggest about the stuff like that, depending on what you put on it, putting it outside, you might have to put a sealer paint on it, because it will, some of this stuff might get wet. Like the wood cutouts, I don't think would be really good unless the sealer. I haven't tried it, so I don't know. It's just a suggestion. Now, these are not gonna fit in a typical terracotta pot, little pot, if you turned it upside down. I don't think the hole would be big enough to put in. You'd have to really cut it down flat in order to keep it solid. If you don't have the big terracotta pot, the base on it, if you want to use the smaller one, you can grab just a pool noodle and just cut it. Maybe you have one at home that would sit perfect in there like that. This is not cut straight on the pool noodle, but just to give you an idea what you want to do. The part, the fence part might be a little bit too tall for this, but you could use the little, you would have to do one by one as the little, let me see if I have them here. The little clothespins, but there are smaller one than these that you could use all the way around as well, is another option if you can't find the ones that I showed you already. Now for the one I'm going to use, I did find at another dollar store. I had a pack of them and they were just the style like this. They were little plant pots, and I really liked the style of it just for the lighthouse. So I did grab one, punched a hole in it, and I painted it red because this part was already white. So depending on your color code, I could have kept it white, but then I found it was too much white. That's why I did it red. And then I'm just gonna hot glue this one down right there. And I am just gonna put some more hot glue on this part like this. But I am gonna put another piece of jute rope and hot glue that all the way around like that. Now I'm gonna get that done and then we're gonna move on to the base. All right, so I glued all that on. I actually just stuck some Spanish moss just to have an abstract with the red and the black fence. Now the base, I was gonna do, I'll show you here. I was gonna use the planter trolley, but I just find that the planter trolley is too deep and then the Jenga blocks sit too low. You could add more Jenga blocks. If you want to use the trolley, you can actually take the wheels off underneath pretty easily. I'm going to opt out for that. I do have this tray and I just stained it. Now DT has a similar tray and they have strings on it that you can take out. The only thing is you just got to make sure that the seam is sealed, because I noticed I have one. It wasn't sealed properly, but I'm just going to use this one. Like I said, it was already stained for another project that I never used. We're just going to stick that right inside. I know the angle you can't see, but I'm going to stick that right inside there. I'm just going to add some driftwood from DT. They came in those packs, and a couple shells. I don't want to make it too busy. I got some shells here. Now the fairy garden figurines have a lot of nautical stuff. They had little boats that came in. I was going to use them in this scene, but I'm going to opt out with just some sand and shells. These ones, and I don't find the other packet. Oh, right here, actually came with one of the little birds, a seagull. And I'm probably just gonna stick it, glue it right on top of one of the posts here when I put the sand, and put it here. Also, there's some with lobsters, shells. There's another bird here. There's actually one here too. I had more and I can't find them now, but the fairy gardens actually had quite a bit different ones. I'm just gonna show you some of these rocks that I found. I am gonna do a fairy garden this year outside. And they also have this one. They just don't fit on my tray, so I will just probably keep some these ones for outdoors, but these are just little options you want. I'm just gonna use some sand right around it. I'm gonna flip the camera over and just put it together and show you the final look. All right, so I just added a bit of rocks here. I had just a little bit of greenery from a vine that I had. I just hot glued it to the side. I did add the lobster in the sand and a few other little shells that I had. And I think it turned out really well. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. I do appreciate everyone that does take the time to leave me a little note. And if you have any questions, you can always hit me up on my Crafty Shopper page if you're ever stuck on any of my projects. Happy crafting and see you soon. Bye.